What if Naruto was the cursed Uchiha? That's the title of this video, and that's what we're going to be discussing. In theory, this is going to be a somewhat long series. How long this series is going to be running all depends on the viewership of the series and how much excitement and joy I get from making this. A baseline, about 5 to 10 parts, I'm hoping for this one, but we'll have to see. Anyways, with that being said, we can now fully begin the video. In this timeline, the Uchiha clan is never going to be wiped out. The Uchiha is going to be on a pretty equal footing with the Senju, Hyuga, Aburame, etc. Akamichi, Nara, you get the point. They're going to be on all an equal footing, so there's no need to exterminate the Uchiha in any way. The Uchiha don't feel discriminated against, meaning that there's no need for them to even think about planning a coup d'etat. And in this timeline, to settle disputes, there would actually be 2 Hokage. The 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze, and the 4th Shadow Hokage, also known as the 1st Shadow Hokage, as it's the first in existence, but technically speaking, his name would be the 4th Shadow Hokage, as he's shadowing the 4th Hokage. This whole Shadow Kage thing I kind of got from Boruto and Sasuke's role in Boruto, where he's akin to that of a Kage, but like behind the scenes, if that makes sense. But with that being said, anyways, basically the Shadow Kage would be Fugaku Uchiha, who would serve right alongside Minato, both with equal footing in the village, but the only difference is that on the outside, otherwise known as to the public, Minato is known as the Hokage, and to those who are, I guess you could say, deeper into the Leaf Village, higher rankings. So basically any ninja, that being Genin, Chunin, Jonin, Special Jonin, Anbu, etc., and obviously other Kage like Hiruzen, yeah, they would all know who the Shadow Kage is and would heavily respect him. Now, with that out of the way that the Uchiha are going to be in the village and that there's going to be no problems with the Uchiha, let's get into Naruto Uzumaki. For the sake of this, what if Naruto is still going to get the Nine Tails? Basically, how he gets the Nine Tails is that Kushina's seal would weaken while Naruto is being born, and Kushina would sacrifice herself for the betterment of the village. Basically, letting herself die so that Naruto could then take on the Nine Tails. Minato would not be the one to fully seal the Nine Tails. This is due to the fact that he wouldn't be the only one. Multiple people would help in the sealing of the Nine Tails into Naruto, and he would get a lot more of the Nine Tails. By a lot more, I actually mean a lot more, meaning 100% of the Nine Tails. Now, this does make Naruto insanely powerful, and we're going to see that going into further parts, just how much this 100% instead of 50% of the Nine Tails really changes Naruto's power. But with that being said, we can now continue. Now that we've outlined the basics, Naruto's the Nine Tails, the Uchiha aren't a problem, everything is good. Naruto. Naruto would grow his whole life in the shadow of his father. His father wanted to protect Naruto as both a Jinchuriki and his son, so Naruto didn't get to leave the village ever in his early years. Obviously, kids don't usually leave the village, but Naruto, being the son of the Hokage himself, he thought he had an entitlement to at least be able to leave the walls of the village, right? But with that being said, he was unable to. Protected by an elite guard of ninja, like even Kakashi Hatake, Might Guy, etc., these ninja made sure that Naruto was always kept under surveillance. But they also did another thing. They trained Naruto. Now, Naruto had started to look at rivals. Kakashi had told Naruto that having a rival such as Might Guy can really help strengthen one's power. So Naruto, being, I guess you could say, the carefree child he was, would look into many candidates to have as rivals. Now, at this point, Naruto would not be going to the academy. He's about 6 years old. Naruto would find himself stumbling into the Uchiha compound. Now, he had been in the Uchiha compound before, but on this night, it was different. It was as if the air was different. Now, some of you may be thinking, what, the Uchiha Massacre? I thought there was no problems. Well, no, it's not the Uchiha Massacre. Actually, what's happening here is, well, this. Basically, Fugaku has had a third child today. And many Uchiha gathered to watch as Fugaku's third child was born on this fateful day. Meaning that basically Itachi's the oldest, Sasuke, second eldest, and the youngest is this child who is now just being born, who is exactly 6 years younger than Sasuke himself. Naruto had realized that right beside him was an Uchiha, as he asked the Uchiha what was going on, why there were so many people gathered in one spot, laughing about and whatnot. Naruto had asked if it was a party, and the Uchiha shook his head no. This isn't a party. This right here is the third born of Fugaku Uchiha. What? Fugaku's having another kid? Isn't two enough? The Uchiha then looked at Naruto with an interesting look, so to speak. It had seemed that the Uchiha had paid no attention to Naruto's physical appearance. Realizing that he had light blonde hair, he realized that the Uchiha was none other than Minato Namikaze's son, Naruto Uzumaki. You're the Hokage's son, aren't you? Yeah, I am. Why? Well, don't go telling this information to your father, you got that? What do you mean? Well, it's important that this information stays secret. The Uchiha are powerful, and they're getting stronger. You see, unlike the Uzumaki, the Uchiha have no limits to their power. What do you mean? The Uzumaki don't have limits to their power either. They can get as strong as they wish. No, they do. You see, most Uzumaki hold that thing that you have, the Nine Tails. It had seemed that the Uchiha had now activated his Sharingan. You see, the Nine Tails is a ferocious beast. Now, it can be tamed in some ways, but not fully tamed as far as I'm concerned. So, put simply, you can never unleash your full power, because if you do, and if you go haywire, that little beast inside you, well, the seal it's in will slowly decay. Many people put their lives on the line just to seal that thing inside you. So if I were you, I would not go testing its power. The seal, that is. The Nine Tails, well, test its power if you dare. It might just scare you out of your own mind. You talk like you know the Nine Tails, or maybe even like you've had it within you. Well, do you know the Nine Tails? No, I don't. Then how the hell do you expect me to know the Nine Tails? I'm just saying all this stuff because why not? I'm making an assumption. You could even say a good guess. An extremely good guess at that. Alright, well, what's the big deal about this third born? What's it gonna be like? Well, like I was saying, unlike the Uzumaki, there's no limits to this third born's power. And in theory, he one day might come to rival Uzumaki. You see, the Uzumaki are inferior to the Uchiha. These words, even though they were so small, and Naruto had a strong will at this point, the words that this Uchiha had, they hurt Naruto more than anything ever could. And as this Uchiha continued to hammer home the point that Uchiha are better than the Uzumaki, the Namikaze, the Senju, and every other clan in the Leaf Village, Naruto started to develop a desire to be an Uchiha. And so that night, he cried in his pillow for hours, as eventually he drifted off to sleep. This would be the first day that Naruto would meet the Nine-Tails, as the Nine-Tails and Naruto just stared at each other in silence. The Nine-Tails would open its mouth to talk, but seeing Naruto's tears, it had nothing to say. Now, the Nine-Tails in this timeline isn't as angry at people in general, but it still dislikes humans. What I'm trying to say is it won't just give itself up to Naruto and let Naruto, use its power freely. So, Naruto still has to earn the Nine-Tails' respect, trust, and etc. Naruto would then disappear from his own mind as everything went white. An old man now stood before Naruto. His name, Hagoromo Otsutsuki. Naruto would ask who the man was, as the man would say that his name is Hagoromo. You could even call him the Sage of Six Paths, the creator of all things in some way or another. Now, like I was saying, Hagoromo would exclaim, before you rudely asked me who I was before letting me introduce myself properly in a more mannerly fashion. I saw something today. What'd you see, old man? You're calling me old, aren't you? That's a little bit disrespectful, but whatever. I realize that you want to be an Uchiha yourself, and I can make that happen if you so wish for it to be. Hagoromo. Some of you may not expect Hagoromo to do this, but now you must look at this perspective. Indra's reincarnation is very much alive and powerful in this timeline, being trained at this age by people like Shisui and Itachi, as well as his own father, Fugaku, constantly. He's getting stronger and stronger than Naruto, as Naruto can't even get a hold on his tailed beast, never mind properly control his chakra. The only thing he's pretty good at is taijutsu, which, well, he's actually amazing at. But even so, taijutsu can only get Naruto so far. Even if he can constantly close the distance between his opponent's bound to know some jutsu that are close range, mid-range, and even long range, especially if Naruto is going to be fighting top tiers. And thus, Hagoromo had come to the conclusion that transmitting Uchiha DNA into Naruto's body in some way or another, and basically giving him the power of an Uchiha, well, Naruto could overcome the current reincarnation of Indra. And so this is what Hagoromo would do. But before giving it to the young boy that Naruto is now, he would ask Naruto a question. I've never given someone the power of the Uchiha like this, unless they were born from the Uchiha clan, or distantly related. So I must ask you one question. Are you willing to take on the curse of hatred, just to have the power of the Uchiha? A curse so powerful that it will bring you to tears, hundreds of times over. A curse so powerful that it may even break you. Your heart, mind, spirit, body. Do you understand? Naruto is no fool. Even at this young age of 6 years old, he was very keen, understood things that kids his age didn't understand. And even then, he was perplexed to answer this question. But he powered through, and he stood and said, Yes. Yes, Hagoromo. I accept the curse of hatred. I didn't even say it was a curse. So you accept being known as the hated one? You accept being hated by all just for your blood? Something you may or may not have even chosen to have? You accept maybe even Hagoromo looked into the pure blue eyes of Naruto, at a loss of words. If that's not someone who's dedicated, I don't know what is and who is. I suppose I'll have to give this man. Man, this is a mere boy that stands before me. Hey, kid. You want the power of the Uchiha? Come and take it. Shake my hand and it's yours. Now, to some of you, this may be a very foolish mistake, but I almost said Hashirama, I meant Hagoromo. In Hagoromo's mind, this decision, even if it turned out to be a bad decision, right? In theory, it all ends up with Asura finally beating Indra in this millennia-long, century-long, whatever you want to call it, feud that they've had together. And hopefully from then it can create a generation of Asuras that are stronger than Indras. Or at least create somewhat of a balance. And in Hagoromo's mind, if this completely fails and Indra still beats Asura, then there's always the next reincarnation of Indra and Asura. Because you have to keep in mind that he's seen Hashirama versus Madara, and he's seen the original Indra versus Asura, and he's seen every single one. So, I guess it comes with the experience, I suppose, to make such a decision like this, which many people could call foolish or smart. But with that being said, Hagoromo will give Naruto the power of the Uchiha. After that day, Naruto had become a different person. His hair was now both blonde and black, but besides that, his physical appearance didn't change much. Naruto the next day had immediately started training, without Kakashi, without Guy, without anybody training him. After a long day of training on mainly his taijutsu skills and skill with shuriken and kunai, he would bend his head over a waterfall as he looked at his reflection. Naruto's eyes would go blurry as he felt like he was about to pass out. He then felt a gut-wrenching feeling as his eyes started to spin. He looked at his eyes once more in his reflection on the water as it was there, in front of this pond, that he had awakened his Sharingan. 2 Tomoe. Now, it's not common for people to automatically activate the 2 Tomoe, but it is possible. And Naruto being given the Uchiha power from Hagoromo himself, there could be made a case that Naruto might not even have to kill anyone important to him or have anyone die that's important to him to activate the Mangekyo Sharingan. But I suppose that that all depends on the future of this whatever. With that being said, Naruto had now become an Uchiha. An Uchiha and Uzumaki. Now, when you mix the DNA of an Uchiha, Uzumaki / Senju together, what do you get? You get the Rinnegan. And the Rinnegan is not going to come up for Naruto just yet, but I'm just letting all of you guys know that it is a possibility for Naruto in the coming future, I suppose would be a good way to put it. In the last part, it ends off with me saying, this is the end of part 0. Yeah. I've kind of just decided to make this all a big movie, as some of the stuff that I said in part 0 might not add up, and not all the people that click on part 1 are going to watch part 0, and so a lot of the stuff I say is not going to sound, I guess, complete, and it's going to be really, really shaky in terms of the story. If I did part 0, part 1, part 2, I wouldn't want to have to give a 20-minute recap. So this is now part 1 of the what if inside of the movie. Part 0 was all the backstory, and this is now the start. Well, kind of. Now, as mentioned before, Naruto would go back to the Uchiha compound. It had seemed that there was going to be a week-long ceremony for this third heir to the Uchiha clan. And thus, Naruto went back to watch. Fireworks were everywhere. People were dancing, laughing, enjoying drinks, having fun. And Naruto managed to meet the same Uchiha. Naruto would then ask the Uchiha a question. What you said yesterday, did you mean it? That the Uzumaki are inferior to the Uchiha? Because they can't use their full power? Well, obviously not all of them. The Uzumaki's a pretty big clan. Unfortunately for them, their power led to their demise. I don't think I follow. Oh, you don't know? 4 out of the 5 great nations teamed up on the Uzumaki clan's own nation, and thus it was destroyed. Why would they do such a thing? Were the Uzumaki that powerful? What, did they all have 9 tailses within them? Well, to put it simply, the Uzumaki had powerful sealing jutsu. So powerful that the other 4 nations that weren't allied with them feared them, so much to the point where they decided to annihilate them, wipe them off the face of the planet. In my opinion, it didn't have to be done. They could have handled it peacefully. But life is life and war is war. People die. So yes, what I said was true. And don't take that in a bad way. It's not a bad thing that you can't use all your power. Well, it is, but I don't mean my words in a bad way. Understand? Yeah, I think I understand. I have a question. If an Uzumaki, like myself, were to acquire the Sharingan, how would you see them? I would see them as above my own. Above the Uchiha, Naruto would activate his Sharingan. It was as if it needed no practice to awaken and disactivate. His Sharingan, that is. The Uchiha would then activate his Sharingan, hoping to scare Naruto off from these interesting questions that there was no need on asking. But when he locked eyes with Naruto, he looked at something else. The 2 Tomoe Sharingan lay dormant in Naruto's eyes, and the Uchiha was astonished. What the hell? Aren't you Minato's son? Yeah, I'm Minato's son, Naruto Uzumaki. If I recall, last night you told me that the Uzumaki are inferior because they can't release their full power, due to the 9 tails or whatever. Well, the Sharingan has powerful genjutsu that, in theory, will be able to control the 9 tails. It's a long story, but somehow I managed to get a Sharingan. How do I know that you didn't kill a member of our clan and then take their eyes? And due to that reason, I might just have to strike you down right where you stand. Naruto would not reason with this Uchiha. The Uchiha was angry. And his name? Well, it was Eiichiro. Eiichiro was a skilled shinobi. He was not a part of the Uchiha police force and was a normal shinobi who was actually of the Jonin rank. Danzo had tried to recruit him to the Anbu, but that just wasn't going to work, as the Uchihas all know of Danzo's weird schemes, right? Just all around the village. They know he's a little bit of a weirdo, right? And thus he never joined the Anbu, or rather, Root specifically. But with that being said, he was a very skilled shinobi with the 3 Tomoe, and at one point in his life, he had actually managed to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, but he stumbled into a problem similar to Kakashi Hatake with his Mangekyo. After awakening it for the first time, he hadn't been able to awaken it for many, many years, and he wouldn't be able to. Now, with that being said, Eiichiro had gotten ready, or rather started to get ready to fight Naruto, even kill him. Naruto could easily show the Uchiha that they were his eyes by deactivating them and reactivating them, but instead Naruto took the challenge. Why not embarrass Eiichiro, and after defeating him, then he would show him that they were his eyes, or rather are. With that being said, Naruto would get ready to fight Ichiro, his two Tomoe now active. Ichiro would rush towards Naruto, as Naruto did not know what to do. Naruto is great in close combat, but with the sudden use of these eyes and the first time being in combat with them, without any prior training with the eyes specifically, he was at a loss for words. He didn't really know what to do. And thus, Naruto would do the only thing that he could do, jump back. It seemed that Ichiro had tried to use some sort of taijutsu attack that made the ground that was in front of Naruto stand up. In theory, this was an Earth-style technique that would impale Naruto if landed and done correctly. Naruto had managed to escape by a whim, as Naruto would pull out a kunai. He would flip the kunai and throw it towards Ichiro. This was the first time he had thrown a kunai in a serious battle. Naruto then ran behind the kunai as he grabbed it again, shocking Ichiro just due to Naruto's speed at such a young age. Naruto would then grab the kunai, which now had wind circling it. It seemed like this was the only way that Naruto could harness wind-style chakra around his own kunai, as at this point, due to all of Naruto's training with Kakashi and Guy, he does know the wind-style chakra nature, but he doesn't know how to apply it to weapons and ninja tools. With that, Naruto would now take his kunai, which had now been infused with wind style, and slash Ichiro. Ichiro would realize that he was cut as he would grab his wound. It didn't spew out blood, so he was fine, but he could tell that if he didn't get it wrapped up soon, and this battle continued any longer, that the wound could get infected. So, Ichiro would use the basic healing ninjutsu that he does know and would start to heal the wound. As he would continue to fight Naruto, Ichiro now pulled out a blade. This blade was long, but also resembled Sasuke Shippuden's blade, the snake sword. No, sorry, my bad. Not the snake sword, but the blade that he first used when encountering Naruto, Sakura, Yamato, and Sai. With that being said, it's also very reminiscent of Shisui's blade. It had seemed that Ichiro actually took a lot of inspiration from Shisui, even seeing Shisui as a sort of mentor in a way. With that being said, he would rush towards Naruto, clashing blade to kunai with him multiple times over. Naruto would start to tire, but his Sharingan was getting stronger and stronger. Naruto started to weave through a lot of Ichiro's attacks, and Ichiro was starting to notice that Naruto was a lot more proficient with the Sharingan than he had thought. Even for someone who's not an Uchiha, this is very, very impressive. With that being said, Ichiro would then use a jutsu. This jutsu was known as lightning style, Azure Dragon. With that, the dragon would latch on to Naruto, electrocuting him to the bone. Naruto would then fall down, as all he could do was look up and see Ichiro's face. Naruto would then grab his kunai. You think it's over, Ichiro? You think I'll just back down because I've been electrocuted? I could take that attack 10 times over and I would not fall. I definitely wouldn't fall to you, someone who looked down on me. Naruto's eyes would spin once more. They had now become the three Tomoe. Naruto would jump right up, kicking Ichiro. Ichiro would go flying, as before Ichiro could land on anything, never mind keep flying, Naruto would stop him, elbowing him right in the back. With that, Naruto would take his kunai, slashing his back. With that, Ichiro would fall to the ground. Naruto would then jab his kunai into Ichiro's back, writing his initials. And what do I mean by initials? He had written a sort of cursive of his name. It was something that would later be known as the Mark of Naruto. With that, it did not look like Naruto's name at all. It looked, in my opinion, kind of cool. I'm not going to throw it up on screen right now, but you guys, basically the idea of it is that it's kind of like the Uzumaki clan symbol and the Uchiha clan symbol mixed together, which would later be known as the Mark of Naruto due to the fact that within the little symbol that he drew is Naruto's initials in cursive. With that, Naruto would stand up. Eiichiro is a Jonin. Naruto hasn't even entered the ninja system. Eiichiro would stand back up as he would smirk. A little bit of cheap shots, don't you think? Cheap shots? What do you mean? Well, most of the attacks that you inflicted on me were from the back. You wounded me once, and even then it wasn't from the front. It was on my side. A blind spot area, Naruto had thought. If you're thinking that it's a blind spot, you're definitely mistaken. It seemed that, at least to Naruto, Eiichiro might have even been reading his mind at this point, as Naruto would laugh to himself. Naruto was laughing only to save himself from dying of exhaustion. Not physically dying, but falling on the ground and panting. Naruto was extremely exhausted. His body has never been under this much strain in his entire life. Naruto would put together a few hand signs, as he would use the wind-style jutsu known as Air Bullet. This would send Eiichiro flying, in theory, but it did not. Eiichiro had slashed right through the attack. Eiichiro would pick up Naruto, asking Naruto what the hell he's doing with a Sharingan, as Eiichiro would edge closer and closer to Naruto's eyes. Naruto, Uzumaki. Sorry for the pain that you're about to feel, but I'm sure that my kin, whoever the hell it was that you stole these Sharingan from, I'm sure they felt the exact same pain, but 10 times worse. So just deal with it, Nine-Tail scum. Eiichiro would reach closer and closer towards Naruto's eye, as soon as he got 1 millimeter away from it, his hand, it vanished. Spewing out blood, Eiichiro didn't know what to do, as he lost enough blood to faint. Eiichiro would fall on his knees as he looked at his now severed arm with his hand on the ground. How did you do that? How did I do what? My arm, Well, Eiichiro, do you want to die today? Naruto would smirk as lightning chakra now appeared around him. What was this power, Naruto thought to himself. Maybe it was an ability of his Sharingan. Maybe not. It had seemed that being gifted the Sharingan by Hagoromo itself had allowed Naruto to access all 5 chakra natures, especially because of the fact that he was an Uzumaki, and adding an Uchiha DNA to that would give him Rinnegan-like abilities. It seemed like these abilities were also amplified due to the fact that they were given directly by Hagoromo, meaning that now he was on a much higher level of speed. Much above, or rather, very, very, very above Eiichiro's current level of speed. Meaning that he was able to be fast enough to quite literally sever Eiichiro's arm when Eiichiro was 1 millimeter away from touching his eye. Those are the kind of speeds above Eiichiro that Naruto had reached. Not speed in general, and just the Naruto verse as a whole, he's nowhere near someone like A's speed, or even Kakashi or Hiruzen's speed, but he's just a lot faster than Eiichiro. But with that being said, Naruto would look at Eiichiro, now on his knees, as he would grab Eiichiro's blade, pointing it to Eiichiro's own neck. Well, Eiichiro, are you ready to die today? I don't want to die, Eiichiro would say, smiling. You could even say grinning, as Naruto would laugh. If you don't want to die so badly, then why the hell are you grinning at me? Get that smug look off your face, or I'll chop your head off right where you stand. You got that? My name is Eiichiro Uchiha. I will not fall to some kid that's no older than 5. Actually, I'm 6. And for that statement, I'll chop off 6 of your toes. Or fingers. If I do that, you might not be able to form a proper jutsu for the rest of your life. And you do serve the Leaf Village, so I guess taijutsu is the only way. Naruto would drop the blade immediately, punching Eiichiro over and over again in the face until Eiichiro couldn't take it anymore. Naruto would stand up, as it seemed that there was pollen in the air of some sort. Was this a genjutsu, Naruto thought? No, it genuinely is pollen, as he would look at his hands, and on them was a yellow tint. Well, I guess the season's coming. Well, that's allergy season for me. Anyway, Ichiro, before you go and pass out, you can still see me, right? Hey, Ichiro! Ichiro would slowly nod his head. Yeah, I can see you. I'm sorry for embarrassing you. Do you want me to put back your arm? What do you mean, put back your arm? Or my arm? A little hazy, isn't it? What's hazy? Your head? You know, your arm just got chopped off. You lost a lot of blood. Anyways, how about this? Use your healing jutsu and I'll sew back on your arm. How does that sound? Even then, I might not have any feeling in the arm for the rest of my life. What am I saying? You didn't even take off my arm. You took off my hand. It's basically just the same thing. Now, do you want me to sew your hand back on or what? Because I won't if you give me more attitude. The way you're talking, you make it sound like I'm the kid. Anyways, kiddo, come, sew it back on. Naruto would pull out some sewing needle as he would sew the arm back on with Ichiro. It seemed like Ichiro was actually a pretty good medical ninja, as most medical ninja, even if the Jonin class, wouldn't be able to pull off what Ichiro just did in sewing back his arm. It seemed like with the help of the Sharingan, Naruto's sewing, and, well, sheer willpower, as well as talent, Ichiro had managed to heal his arm back on, or rather his hand back onto his arm. But Ichiro had no more feeling in his arm. It had been off of the limb for way too long, meaning that he could no longer feel his left hand. Naruto would lay down on his back. Ichiro, I'm sorry for taking away such an important thing. Like what? Feeling in your fucking hand. What else could I be talking about? Well, I did try to kill a kid. Oh, wait, I forgot. Ichiro would quickly stand up, his legs shaking and trembling with pain. I just remembered. You stole an eye from an Uchiha. And for that, even if you did just help me, you must die. Naruto would punch Ichiro, making him fall right down to the ground. This punch was the equivalent of a servant patting you on your back. That's just how weak Ichiro was at this moment. Naruto would then look into the eyes of Ichiro. As first, he would spit on his face. Don't ever accuse me of such a thing. These are my eyes. Naruto would deactivate them, showing Ichiro his light blue eyes, as he would then reactivate his Sharingan. See, they're mine. People who are an Uchiha, or born with the eyes, can't reactivate and deactivate them. Is that enough? Yeah, that's enough. Someone's gonna find me out here eventually, and I'm willing to bet you it's gonna be an Uchiha, probably of a higher rank. This is where most of the elites of the clan smoke. Smoke what? Cigarettes, cigars? Mostly cigarettes, but occasionally cigars. I see. So elites come over here. Does that mean I'll get another good fight if I wait long enough? Trust me, kid. Just by looking at you, you're in the same condition as me besides the hand part. Actually, you're right, Ichiro. I can barely even stay awake. I'm so damn tired, and my body is shaking with pain. But I would love to fight another elite Uchiha. Even so, I will get going. I don't want to have to run into Fugaku. When you get found, what are you going to say happened to you? I'll say a bear attacked me. And then what happens when they know that you're stronger than a bear? Either you'll be exempt from the clan for being such a weakling and a jonin, or you'll be looked down upon for the rest of your life. Or, I'm willing to bet you this, they won't believe you. You're right, kid. Why are you talking like such an adult all of a sudden? Just because you took off my hand doesn't mean you're 20 years old, Naruto. Sure. Anyways, are you going to get the hell up and go recover somewhere else? Or am I going to have to drag you somewhere so you can heal there? You're going to have to drag me. And so Naruto would. He would take Ichiro to a place where Ichiro could heal, specifically a hospital, as Ichiro would just say to the nurse that he got bitten by a bear. And the bear bit his hand right off. And the rest of the scratches all over his body and cuts were bear scratches. And they kind of did look English, look like bear scratches just because of the way that Naruto cut the kunai into Ichiro. Them not knowing Ichiro's a jonin, they would just believe it, Bear attacks do happen in Konoha. It's whatever. And so Ichiro would get all patched up. And with that, this is the end of part 1. Part 2 will now begin shortly. If I were you, this would be the part where I like the video if I haven't already. Maybe take some time to comment, subscribe if you're new, or even go and microwave some popcorn. Just start it up, But with that being said, we can now begin part 2 of What If Naruto Was the Cursed Uchiha. This is now part 2 of What If Naruto Was the Cursed Uchiha, and in my opinion, the best part. Why is this the best part? Well, in my opinion, mostly the action, but besides that, we can now begin the video. If you haven't liked already, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we can now fully begin part 2 of What If Naruto Was the Cursed Uchiha. We will have a time skip of 4 years. Naruto is now 10 years old. He did not go to the academy in any form, as Minato had elected against it. Seeing Naruto's growth, and just to be clear, Minato does not know about Naruto's Sharingan. But anyway, seeing Naruto's growth and how now he's been able to get his chakra control fully under control, he now has a very great relationship with the Nine-Tails. And if the Nine-Tails is ever mad at him, he usually just uses some sort of genjutsu, so that it doesn't really matter if the Nine-Tails is mad at him or not. But when he does do that, it does invoke a lot of emotion in Kurama. It makes him sometimes even more angry because, well, we all know Kurama's hate for the Uchiha. He despises them. Utterly hates them, even. But with that being said, Naruto is now 10 years old. And he has been on many missions. By the age of 8, he had actually concurrently left the village. So what I mean by that is he was constantly going on missions by the age of 8. What kind of missions? Usually C and B rank missions, nothing above that. But at the age of 10 now, he's regularly doing A rank missions. And he has been on 2 S rank missions with Kakashi, Might Guy, Ebisu, and 2 other Jonin, as well as 1 other Chunin and 3 Genin. With that being said, the Genin just ended up being put on the team to go on that S-rank mission. They weren't actually big contributors, so to speak, in the whole event. But with that being said, nevertheless, Naruto has gotten a lot stronger. He now has control over every single element in some way or another. But his favorite to use is lightning style and wind style. He even likes to combine water style and lightning style a lot, though. So he usually uses water style and lightning style attacks, but his favorite to use is easily wind style and lightning style. But with that being said, Naruto would go on a mission on this very day, 4 years from the day that he injured Ichiro. And also, by the way, Ichiro and Naruto are very, very close. They now have a very, very strong relationship. And basically, Naruto is waiting to, I suppose you could say, crush Sasuke's dreams. You see, Naruto, during these 4 years of him training, had actually spoken to both Itachi and Shisui. What was their conversation? Well, first of all, Naruto showed them his Sharingan. Itachi and Shisui were two people that Naruto truly looked up to in the Uchiha clan, so he thought that it was only right that he showed them his Sharingan. Even though he didn't necessarily have to, he just felt like it was the right thing to do. You know, if anyone was going to know, it should be Itachi and Shisui, even though Ichiro already knows about it, you know. With that being said, Naruto had been stopped by Shisui and Itachi before leaving that day, and they'd asked him if he could be Sasuke's rival. And thus, Naruto had basically agreed. And now Sasuke is making strides to be better than Naruto in every way possible, as at this point, he is furious that he's still in the academy, whilst Naruto is already going on B, A, and even in some cases S rank missions. It really, really gets under Sasuke's skin. And even though he is in the academy and is able to do certain missions, he is sick and tired of having to stay in the village for each and every mission. As the highest level mission that he's done was a C rank mission, and it wasn't even outside of the village. So with that being said, he is very infuriated and is working every single day to catch up to Naruto. But with that being said, Naruto had went on a mission this day. The mission was to land hidden in the clouds. This place to Naruto meant a lot, as two of the people that lived in the village in the clouds were actually Jinchurikis. Naruto was in the back of his head hoping that he could meet them. But, you know, that's just a pipe dream, obviously. You might not, you might do, I guess, meet two Jinchuriki in one day, but it's very, very unlikely, even if you are a Jinchuriki yourself. But the mission was just to do a little bit of recon. You see, it had appeared as if to some of the Anbu that had regularly scouted around the Hidden Cloud village that the Hidden Cloud was preparing an attack, impossibly on the Leaf village. But even if it was a different nation, it would still matter a ton, as stuff like this is very, very important in the Naruto world. And so Naruto had been assigned to this mission as an A-ranked mission that could escalate to an S-ranked mission. Naruto is very, very powerful. If I were to scale him, he's easily Kage level, just for all of you to have a good idea of how powerful he is. Though also 12-year-old Naruto in the canon timeline is about Jonin to Kage level when he defeats Gaara. But nevertheless, Naruto is very, very strong, especially because he has 100% of the Nine Tails and can utilize most of its power. By the way, though, he does not have the KCMs. Not yet, that is. With that being said, Naruto, whilst doing his recon mission, had ran into one Jonin, who he swiftly took care of. Unfortunately, Naruto did have to subdue him in a manner that meant that the man would die, but nevertheless, he had been able to stay undercover. And thus, Naruto had completed his mission, or so he thought. Naruto had tripped over a vine, which sent him flying into the clouds territory. You see, because he was about maybe half a meter or so away from actually being fully in the clouds territory, but when he tripped, he fell right in. And the cloud has a system to where they can basically track chakra that resonates with the cloud ninja and chakra that doesn't, and thus they knew that there was an intruder. B and Yugito, just being around at the same time, would immediately go to check it out, as there they saw Naruto, face planted in the ground in front of them. They would laugh. A mere kid from the Leaf Village, scouting around in the cloud, accidentally trips over a branch and is now face planted into the ground. Poor kid, they thought to themselves, as they would walk away. Naruto would look up, and there he looked. He saw 8 blades. The 8 blades that Killer Bee carries on him. Naruto had studied both Killer Bee and Yugito, so he knew a lot about them, and something that he found very fascinating was those 8 blades. So when he saw it, he was astonished. and he quickly rose to his feet, staring at the backs of Yugito and Killer Bee. Yugito and Killer Bee, noticing this presence, watching them mature around, as they saw the boy with noticeable dirt all over his vest. It had appeared that he was actually a Jonin, but such a young kid. They had thought maybe he couldn't grow, and so maybe he truly was an adult, but then they took a deeper look and realized that he was just a little kid. They would ask him how old he was, as Naruto would say 10. Now cut the crap. They would immediately be a little bit taken aback by that. Why would Naruto say, cut the crap? As Naruto would then continue, you two are the Jinchurikis of the Cloud Village. Now I'll tell you this. I wasn't assigned to take you two out, but since you two are here, I'm sure the Leaf Village would be proud to know that the 8 and 2 Tails Jinchuriki were defeated in combat. Let's fight. Naruto at this point does wield a blade, which is actually very in sync with Kurama. He calls it the 9 Tails Chakra Blade, as at any time he can tap it, and it will basically flare up with 9 Tails Chakra. And is very connected to him spiritually and physically. As well, it's connected to his Jinchuriki. And obviously, his body. With that, Naruto would pull out the blade, challenging both of them to a fight. I, Naruto Uzumaki, challenge you, Yugito Ni, and you, Killer Bee, to a duel. Yugito would respond to the boy. So, you're telling me that a little squirt that's no older than 10 years old wants to fight both of us in battle? At the same time? Do you even know who we are? Obviously, I know who you are. Did you not hear what I said just moments ago? It seems to me that you don't pay attention to what I say. By the time I'm finished with both of you, you'll pay attention to every single word that comes out of my bloody mouth. Naruto would charge towards the both of them. Both of them would easily dodge his attack, creating a good amount of distance between them and Naruto. Naruto would look at both of them as he would sigh. Such a frivolous game to play. Don't you know I'm a Jinchuriki as well? 9 Tails Chakra would gather around the blade. Naruto would then rush towards Yugito. Yugito was the weaker of the two, so he assumed that it would be easy pickings, so to speak, and thus he would attack Yugito. Yugito would stop the blade with sheer pressure and physical strength, as the blade would almost start to crack, but the 9 Tails Chakra around it would keep the blade contained in its iron, I suppose you could call it, as it would basically make the blade regenerate itself. Naruto would jump back, trying to cut Yugito, but it was to no avail. Every single time he tried to cut her, she would either weave to the side or evade the attack. And in other words, this was kind of a game of chase the mouse. The mouse was too fast for Naruto, is what I'm trying to say. And with that, funny enough, because Yugito actually has some attacks that are similar to mice. But anyways, with that being said, Yugito would now start to fight back. First, she would start off with a simple punch to Naruto's face. This would take Naruto back. He had tried to attack her about 29 times, but each time she had not responded with an attack of her own. Obviously, if Naruto's Sharingan was active at this time, he would have been able to see this coming, but he didn't because his Sharingan wasn't active, and his perceptive abilities weren't really focused on whether or not Yugito would hit back or not, just whether or not he'd actually be able to land a actual blow on Yugito. With that being said, Naruto would continue to try to attack Yugito, as Yugito would quickly jump into the air, slamming her foot down onto Naruto. Naruto would then block with both of his arms in an X-like formation, catching the kick. Yugito would then jump back, flipping mid-air and coming back with another attack, also known as a kick, as this attack's just gonna be a kick. With that being said, this kick was now different, as it was infused with 2 Tails Chakra. Matatabi. Kick. Yugito would say, as she would slam her foot down into Naruto. Naruto would fall down right into the ground, but before he had fully fallen to the ground, his arms would break out of the X-formation and fall to the side. During that time, Yugito would just move forward, slamming her foot down into Naruto's chest and causing Naruto to cough up blood, as then Naruto would fall to the ground. Naruto would look up, his eyes a little daisy, as he hadn't been kicked like that in a very, very long time. He had actually not felt that much pain in a very, very long time. He doesn't really feel pain, and hasn't really felt pain like that in years, several years. And thus, Naruto would stand up. His hands on his knees as he was leaned over. Killer Bee would appear behind Naruto, a blade to Naruto's neck, as Naruto would smirk. The blade now had a little bit of blood on it. It had seemed like Killer Bee's blade was sharp enough just as it was to make Naruto's skin bleed. Naruto would then look at Killer Bee with one eye. Killer Bee was surprised. The look in Naruto's eyes was unlike that look that most children have, you know. The purity of an eye really means a lot, in children especially. And Naruto's eyes didn't have that. They were more menacing, akin to a trained shinobi. Naruto's teeth would then start to enlarge, as Nine-Tails chakra would build up around his body itself. Killer Bee would then start to realize that Naruto's skin itself was fighting against his blade, as he realized that it wasn't just his skin anymore. It was the bubbly chakra of the Nine-Tails itself. Killer Bee would jump back. He didn't know what to expect. How powerful and in sync was Naruto with his Jinchuriki? Had he fully mastered it? No way. It's the Nine-Tails. And as far as Killer Bee knows from the Eight-Tails, the Nine-Tails is but the hardest of the tailed beast to master, and that it's never been mastered in any way. And thus, Killer Bee had come to the conclusion that he most likely is not powerful enough to, well, use the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki as a whole. The powers of a Jinchuriki, that is. But Killer Bee, reaching this conclusion, would press harder with his blade, rushing towards Naruto, as Naruto would dodge this first attack. With that being said, Naruto would take his hand and push it towards Killer Bee, as he would stand still. It was almost as if time had stopped for a second. Killer Bee in front of Naruto, Yugito behind Naruto, and Naruto's fist going towards Killer Bee. The events that were about to unfold could only be described as that of fiction. And if Naruto were to tell anyone of this story, you could even say that they wouldn't believe him. With that being said, a red, bubbly aura would appear around Naruto, much stronger than the one that had appeared around him moments ago, when Killer Bee had tried to cut him in his neck. Naruto's eyes would go a glowing red, as the Sharingan's Tomoe, so the Tomoe that are around the Sharingan, would be around Naruto's Nine-Tails eye. Naruto would roar, as Kurama, deep within Naruto, would smirk. So this is how it feels to be an Uchiha and possess these wretched eyes. With that, Naruto, whose body is now in the hands of Kurama, would fight Killer Bee and Yugito. Yugito ni, Naruto would say. The Two Tails is within you, right? Yugito did not know what to say. It was as if she was talking to a different person, a different entity, something that was not the boy that she had saw in front of her just moments ago. Naruto would latch onto his blade, this time with much more strength. I say Naruto, but in reality, this is, technically speaking, the manifestation of Kurama in a human body. With that being said, Naruto would rush towards Yugito, slashing her in the back. Well, Yugito, I do have one question for you. Do you like being on the ground? Because that's the only place that you're going to be "Stay in your place, Two Tails," Kurama would mutter under his breath, as in Naruto's own body, he would push his blade down onto the back of Kurama. With that, Naruto would smirk. Or Kurama, but I'm just going to refer to it as Naruto, but I think you guys get what I'm trying to say. That it's Kurama who's in control of Naruto's body, but it's Naruto who's doing this stuff, technically speaking. With that being said, Naruto would push deeper and deeper into Yukito's back. Naruto had thought about it. If he goes any deeper, he may just paralyze Yukito. But with an unparalyzed Yukito, it may spark a rivalry between the two. And Yukito definitely is a pretty good rival to have, while Sasuke is still catching up in his youth. So, Naruto would stop himself, and would stop Kurama at that, which was the harder part of the two. Obviously, stopping himself was a lot easier than stopping his own tailed beast. With that being said, Kurama would grunt as Kurama, in control of Naruto's body, would look towards Killer Bee. With this, Naruto, watching what's happening from his own mind, would tell Kurama not to kill Bee, to spare him, but to use as much of his power that he needs. Kurama would smirk, saying fine, as Naruto would let Kurama have full control over his body. Naruto would then daze off into a sleep-like state, as Kurama, now disguised as Naruto, would have basically every part of Naruto's being in the palm of his hand, really. Naruto's teeth would now enlarge further. His hair became more mangy, so to speak, and his aura was a lot more menacing. His nails had also grown now, with both his fingers looking as if he were truly a fox. Kurama would then look into the eyes of Killer Bee, as Killer Bee noticed something was off. Has this boy truly managed to control the Nine Tails, he thought to himself? Because it seems like that. But Bee had already come to the conclusion that such a young child wouldn't be able to master such a demonic and monstrous beast. And thus, he would take out two of his blades, rushing towards Naruto, this time flipping them as he would take out two more. He now had 4 blades in his palms. With that, he would rush towards Naruto. Naruto would dodge these, kicking Killer Bee, as Killer Bee would go somewhat flying, stopping himself with one of his blades. With that, Killer Bee would jump into the air, ready to use another jutsu. With that, Naruto would stop this jutsu, grabbing Killer Bee's hands and throwing him down to the ground. This time, Naruto would use his own jutsu, Wind-style air bullet. With that, Naruto would then start another jutsu. Naruto be controlled by Kurama, that is. This jutsu is now a lightning-style jutsu. Lightning-style, Azure Dragon of the Mist. This jutsu is a jutsu that is combined with a little bit of wind-style, which basically just creates the mist around the attack, but it's usually just to dull senses. The mist, that is. This would work in dulling his senses a little. Naruto would then jump back, using the space that he had created between both him and Killer Bee, as well as obviously Yukito Ni, who was in the corner or whatever. He would use a jutsu that he had actually never used before, so this would definitely be a first. But it is a jutsu that he had took the time to learn, and it was in a way considered a forbidden jutsu of sorts. This jutsu is very familiar to those of us who have, well, experienced the character Naruto. Maybe you guys have guessed it, maybe you haven't. But Naruto would put both of his fingers together, as he would yell out, "Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu." Naruto, upon the first time of him seriously using this jutsu, would create 10,000 shadow clones. All of these shadow clones would now surround both Killer Bee and Yukito. Naruto, at the same time, would make sure to even out the chakra in all of the clones, just to not alert anybody in the village, and also to make sure that, well, nobody could sense him, and that nobody would interrupt their fight. because he does know of the fourth Hokage, or my apologies, I am sincerely sorry, the fourth Raikage, who, well, is a beast among shinobi. With that, Naruto, for the first time using this jutsu, would position his clones to do all they could. Now, Yugito and Killer Bee are having no problem dealing with these clones, but it's sort of turning into a battle of nutrition. Yes, they can defeat Naruto's clones decently easily, but taking on 5,000 shadow clones each is going to be hard for anybody, no matter what their skill level is. 10? Maybe. 1? Sure. 100? 1,000? Possible. 2,000? 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, and that's where it gets a little tricky. And in this case, both of them have to take that on. It's not like both of them can take on 5,000. Both of them get 5,000 each. With that, Naruto would use his chakra to direct them to do certain attacks and certain techniques. With that, 1 to 2 hours would pass. At this point, all of Naruto's shadow clones, except for one, have been defeated. With that, both Yugito and Killer Bee would slam their fist into the same shadow clone. And it would catch both of their blows. They would be taken aback. But as they backed up, Naruto would fall to the ground. With Naruto falling to the ground, the clone, that is, it would explode. Naruto would smirk, as it would cause tar to cloud both of their visions, as well as heavy smoke. Naruto would reappear in front of Yugito and Killer Bee, split-kicking both of them in the face. They would both fall to the ground, as Naruto would look down on both of them. This fight was supposed to be easy because I was a little kid, right? Naruto would pull out a blade. Well, it seems like the tables have been turned. You guys are still far too strong for me to take out. Even if I were to fight one of you alone, it would have to be Yugito. If not, then I would probably succumb to death. And thus, I'll use the same jutsu once more. How does 5,000 more sound? Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto would summon 5,000 more shadow clones, as it would take them 3 hours together to take out all of these shadow clones. This time, Naruto had a lot more experience with the jutsu and was able to wear them out a lot faster. With that, Naruto would smirk as they were both on their knees. The chakra of their Jinchurikis covered them. Killer Bee was in the three-tailed mode, and Yugito, well, she was only using one tail of chakra. With that, Naruto would watch as they both stood up. Naruto would smile. This way, the fight's actually fair. Now, would you two spare me a short dance? I swear, I won't take up too much of your time. How does that sound? B, you want to take this kid on his little dance? Sure, why not? A dance is a dance. And I'll probably be able to make some good rhymes out of this. Always about rapping with you. Killer Bee and Yugito would bump fist as they would prepare to fight Naruto. Rushing towards Naruto at high speeds, Naruto was almost barely able to react. He would grab both of their hits, flipping them over each other. Naruto would create a jutsu. In a split second, this jutsu would be known as Killer Smoke. Deadly Wind. Basically, what is this jutsu? Well, a quick synopsis of the jutsu is that it creates a heavy amount of smoke, whilst also the smoke to inhale is very, very dangerous and basically depletes whoever inhales its stamina, besides the user, obviously. But with that being said, upon the firing of this jutsu, their stamina would deplete. Now, with that, Naruto had truly been even, or what now truly was even, to both of them at the same time. Naruto would take out a water bottle. Naruto would grab onto it, as he would slowly drink it, watching as they approached him. Naruto looked out in front of him as he would put his water away, wiping his face. Well, I didn't expect you all to come so fast. Naruto would create 2 bubble-like spheres in his arms. Or rather, his hands. My sincere apologies. With that, Naruto would rush towards both of them, slamming these balls of chakra into both Killer Bee and Yugito. This would send them flying, as Naruto would appear behind both of them. Killer Bee would catch one of Naruto's kicks, as the other one would go head first, I suppose you could say. Or, in this case, I guess it would be kick first into Yugito's head. With that, Yugito would fall to the ground, as Naruto would grab Yugito by the hair and throw her up into the air. With that, Naruto would yell out, "Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu." This time, he would create 3 Shadow Clones, throwing one down towards Killer Bee. He would choose for this one to explode and create a small 5-second distraction. With that, he would take the 2 other Shadow Clones and rush towards Yugito at high speeds as she flew up into the air. Naruto would now grab Yugito by the hair again, as his Shadow Clones would basically attack her mid-air, using a variety of attacks on Yugito. Kicks, punches, jabs, you name it. They were even grabbing their own blades and slashing Yugito. Naruto would then drop Yugito by the hair as she would go flying into the ground. Both of Naruto's Shadow Clones would now land, as they would kick Yugito simultaneously. Naruto's Shadow Clones would both smirk, as Killer Bee would throw 2 of his katana-like blades. Actually, I wouldn't really describe them as katana, but you guys know what I mean. 2 of his blades into both of Naruto's Shadow Clones, causing them to pop. Yugito would quickly stand on her feet, kneeing Naruto on his chest. This would cause Naruto to be winded as he would fall back on his, legs. Naruto was now back first on the ground. Looking up, he would watch as Killer Bee jumped towards him, blades in hand. Naruto would quickly move on the ground, basically doing a little roll, which would allow him to avoid Killer Bee's attack. With that, Naruto would jump to the ground, clashing blades with Killer Bee. As soon as he did that, Naruto would be grabbed from the back. It was Yugito who would do this, delivering a heavy blow to Naruto's stomach. This would cause his whole body to rattle with pain. Naruto in agony would roar, but you could even describe it as a little bit of a scream. I say roar now, but he kind of sounded like a little girl. Upon hearing the scream, Yugito would step back. Enough space for Naruto to jump. Naruto would jump into the air, bringing his foot upwards and downwards, which in theory should hit Yugito's head. But she would put her arms in a cross-like formation as she would block the kick, absorbing the impact in the center where both of her arms meet. Naruto. You're the Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki, right? Well, yeah. What else would I be? The Two-Tails has no place defeating you. But him, well, he can take on just about any cat. Or in this case, it would be Fox, right? What do you mean? Look behind you, dumbass. Naruto would watch as Killer Bee was rushing towards him. But Killer Bee looked odd. Instead of the man that he had seen before, it had seemed like he was looking at a octopus. Naruto would watch as its fist would approach closer and closer to him. As, without Naruto even thinking, he now had 7 tails of the 9 tails' chakra scattered all around him. And now, as I mentioned previously, Naruto has gotten down a decent amount of Kurama's chakra at this point. And basically, with the Sharingan, he's able to even use the chakra tails without transforming into the red-skinned beast that you could say that he transformed into versus Pain. He also transformed into it versus Orochimaru, in the filler against Sora, that kind of thing. But with that being said, Naruto would then grab the palm well, what would now be the 8 tails. Naruto would stare down the beast as the 8 tails would snarl, as its saliva would get all over Naruto's face. Naruto would wipe it off, as with that he would jump into the air, slamming his fist down into the beast. The beast would be able to block it, and now, well, the beast is the Hachibi, who is also known as the 8 tails. With that, with the real 8 tails' name being Yuki. With that being said, the 8 tails would say its name. My name is Yuki, boy. Now, whilst the 8 tails sounded very, very calm to Naruto, he was also roaring about and trampling things in his path. So Naruto was very, very confused. Now, this isn't necessarily telepathy, but it's something that Yuki can only do with someone who's also a Jinchuriki. And thus, 2 things would happen. Naruto would gather more chakra from the 9 tails to even out to 8 tails, and Naruto would also see this as a friendly matchup. One where he most likely won't die, but to where he should still try his hardest. With that, Naruto would rush towards Yuki, as they would have a conversation. You're the 9 tails Jinchuriki, aren't you? Naruto would slam his foot into Yuki, sending him flying, and before he could go any further, Naruto would grab him, throwing him up into the air. Am I the 9 tails Jinchuriki? Yes, of course I am. And you are? I'm the 8 tails, Yuki. I see. What an interesting name, Naruto would say. Naruto would enlarge his claws with chakra as he would jab them into Yuki. Yuki would scream out in pain, or this would be more of a roar, the exact opposite of the scream that Naruto had when Yugito punched him in his stomach. With that, Naruto would kick Yuki down to the ground, as, well, Yuki would continue. How do you have so much mastery over the 9 tails? As far as I know, Kurama's never been one to, I guess you could say, befriend his Jinchuriki. He hates humans as far as I know. Well, that is true. I suppose I don't know, 1 in a million. A lot more than 1 in a million, kiddo. But, unfortunately, you crossed territory that you shouldn't have. If you're still alive after this, I might, and only might, be able to let you live. Understand? Yeah, I think I get it. Naruto would slam his hands together. 9 tails. What do you want? I'm going to need as much chakra as you can give me in my base form. Isn't 8 tails enough? No, I need more. Who could you possibly be fighting that you would need more than 8 tails? You're fighting the 8 tails? Yeah. And you neglected to mention that? Well, I kinda thought that, well, you wouldn't want to know. You were sleeping, you know? The 8 tails and I are related. He's basically my brother. Why the hell would I want to know that you're fighting him? From now on, tell me if you're fighting a tailed beast. Fine. But yes, I can give you 9 tails of my chakra. But there's the possibility that if you can't get it under control, that it might just transform you into me. I'm gonna take that as a threat, Kurama. But I accept. Good. Naruto now had access to all 9 tails of chakra, as he would use the tails to protect himself from what was about to come. The 8 tails, his mouth would open wide. Prepare for hell, kiddo. Ah! Tailed Beast Bomb! 8-tail style. Killer Bee would then spit some rhyme about how the 8-tails is going to kill Naruto with such a devastating attack. The 8-tails would proceed to tell Killer Bee to shut up, as he's trying to see something. He's trying to see the outcome of this battle. Killer Bee would be silent, as he would also watch what was going to happen. Naruto would defend against the tailed beast bomb. As with that, he held it in place. Naruto now looked at the ball directly, as he used his Sharingan to basically, I guess you could say, analyze the jutsu. Naruto had the thought that if he could analyze the jutsu, then maybe he could make a skill similar to it in base form, and wouldn't have to rely on the Nine-Tails' chakra, which would in turn weaken his seal, just to use such a devastating attack. Just in the case that he ran into an enemy on the level of Killer Bee. Or even just an enemy that's strong enough for him to use a tailed beast bomb. Naruto, now having a good enough analysis on the jutsu, would send it back towards Yuki. Yuki's jaw would drop, as he would fire another tailed beast bomb to disperse the attack. With that, both attacks would explode, creating a smokescreen. Naruto would watch as his chakra would fade from him. Wow. Is this it? Is this the end of the Nine-Tails chakra? No. I'm not transforming into the Nine-Tails, which means it can only mean one thing. I'm too tired to go on anymore. Naruto would fall on his knees, as he would then fall on his side. Damn it. I need to get back to the Leaf Village. I'm screwed. Damn it. Hiruzen's gonna kill me. Ugh. I can't wait to hear a mouthpiece from him. Naruto would pass out. Yugito, who was in a much better condition than Bee at this point, whose chakra was at about 10% with the use of 2-tailed beast bombs in the full 8-tails form. And obviously his prior fighting with Naruto. Yugito would walk over, picking up the boy and putting Naruto on his back. With that, Yugito would take Naruto back to the Cloud Village, as he would leave him with A. With that, Naruto would wake up in the Raikage's office. Naruto would look around. Where the hell am I? Oh yeah. Don't tell me. Rope? You've got to be kidding me. And what's this? A seal? Ugh. Don't tell me. Don't tell you what, kid. Don't tell me that's the voice of the Raikage. It indeed is. A is my name. Nice to meet you, kiddo. Well, go on, fist bump me. You put a seal on me and also tie me up. I'm not fist pumping you until these shackles are off of me. Shackles? I'd just call them good measure. But I suppose, if it means that I can get my fist pump, I can let these restraints off. Well, do it then. A would slash his hand, cutting the rope. Thank you. You can get your fist pump now. Naruto and A would fist pump. A had the biggest smile on his face, whereas Naruto was the complete opposite. You could even describe Naruto's expression as a bit of a frown. With that, Naruto would look over to A, as he sensed something different in this person, and so did the Nine-Tails. It had seemed like A had been friendly to the Nine-Tails. What he means by that is that Kurama basically is looking at A and It seems like A is fine with Tailed Beast, meaning that he's friendly towards all Tailed Beast. And thus, Killer B, Yugito Ni, and even Naruto himself could all, at the same time, be very good friends with A. This is just the conclusion that Kurama came to. Also, in Naruto's mind, he needs to get out of here quickly, too. A would speak up. Sit down, boy. There's a chair right behind you. The chair's a little far. You mind if I move it closer? Fine. Naruto would move the chair closer, now being a bit less than a meter away from A, as they would have a conversation. Naruto would start, asking how A's day was. As A would say that his day's pretty good, as he would begin to yell, Cut the crap, Naruto! You know exactly why you're here. You entered the Cloud Village as a Leaf Shinobi. Depending on what your goal was, the Leaf and the Cloud may soon go to war. Me having you here is only going to prompt that battle. So our villages are going to war, is that right? Yes, precisely. Well, the longer I keep you here, that is. Or you could answer my questions. Well, now that I know that you're willing to provoke a war, I won't hold back in killing you. You untied my shackles, which means that it's over, A. Lightning chakra would form around A as his eyes would widen and then re-close, if that makes sense. Not close entirely like a blink, but rather they would just take their original form again, with his eyebrows now being raised. And then squinted. This lightning chakra was devastating enough to break the glass that was in his window. Naruto's hair would fly as he would put a hand over his face. Naruto would then let his Sharingan loose. As with that being said, he would put A under a genjutsu. A's eyes would grow sleepy as Naruto would rush out of the Raikage office. He was no fool. If he were to wait any longer, A would have broken the genjutsu. And even now, as he escapes, A gets closer and closer to breaking it. But with that being said, Naruto would rush out of the village. Before leaving, he would find the chakras of Yugito, bowing to her and saying, thank you. With that, he would then find the chakra of Killer B, also bowing and thanking him, shaking his hand as well, as at this point on, the three of them would share a bond forever. With that, Naruto would leave the village, returning to the Leaf. Halfway there, he realized a blue dashing bolt behind him. It was reaching him at high speeds. As Naruto thought about what it could be, his mind immediately flashed to the Raikage, whose blue-like lightning chakra he had seen before. Damn it, damn it, damn it, Naruto thought to himself. Never can I get free of these cloud shinobi. Ugh. Naruto would pull out two blades from his side. Well, come on. How about we have a little scuffle? A would start to slow down as he would body slam Naruto. Naruto would go flying as he would pass out whilst going flying. With that, the sheer devastating earthquakes that just the Raikage / A walking made was enough to wake Naruto up from his short, but I guess you could say sweet, slumber. With that, his eyes would open as A now stood in front of him tall. Naruto now had blood going from his forehead down from, his forehead down from his cheek. With that, Naruto would look up at A. Well, if you're gonna kill me, just get it over with. A would yell out, Why would I kill you? You're the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. But I will have to kill you if you don't join my side. Join your side? What? What do you mean? I mean, become a Cloud Shinobi. I can't just do that. You know that, right? Well, then I guess you can't just die either. Rest in peace, Uzumaki Naruto. A would pull back a fist as he would rush to slam it within Naruto. Naruto's words would be stuttered as he was in agonizing pain, but he would speak. Join the clouds, you say? Never would I have thought the Raikage would offer me such a choice. I'm in. Huh? What? Well, originally I came to the cloud to scout out a few things. After that, I encountered Yugito Ni and Killer Bee. After that, I was captured by the two of them, and they gave me to you. After that, I escaped you. Halfway to getting home, I was caught by you. And now I'm being offered to join you. Or my life is on the line. Obviously, I'm gonna go with the choice that allows me to survive. A. Or, I suppose, Fourth Raikage, Lord Fourth Raikage. I accept your offer. Glad to hear it. We'll begin your training as a Jinchuriki at once. What a warm welcoming, Lord Raikage. With that, this is part 3/4 of the What If coming to a close. If I were you, I'd maybe go grab a snack, something like that, as we are going to have a short intermission period. We're going to take a quick 5 seconds just to give you all some time to, I don't know, yeah. That is roughly 5 seconds, maybe even a little bit more. But with that being said, we can now continue to What If. Naruto would wake up in a bed. The bed was very, very comfortable. He would look out and all he would see was clouds. He would look out the other window, and there were rocks leading from what appeared to be his home down to land, which was filled with tons of people. People he had never seen in his life. Naruto looked closer and closer and he spotted a store. They sold tea, Naruto could tell. In the other store that he spotted, they sold ramen, and in another, they sold fresh-made barbecue chicken, as well as what appeared to be some fried teriyaki. Naruto would smile. Well, it seems like this place isn't so bad after all. Naruto would look down at his hands, which were beaten, bloodied, and calloused. Let me think. Should I actually stay here and genuinely join the cloud? I really have no reason to stay in the leaf anyways. In here, they've treated me welcomely. Unlike my first greeting to the leaf villagers. Even if they have small ill intent in, well, trying to use my power as a Jinchuriki against other nations. I suppose I'll go with the flow. That's all I can do at this point. I've been beaten by 2 Jinchurikis and captured by a Kage. Coincidentally, the Kage that captures me is the one closest in strength to the Hokage. How unfortunate my situation looks. It seems like I'm gonna have to pull through this one. Naruto would hear a knock at the door. It was Killer Bee. Yo! Killer Bee would say, as Naruto was not expecting that at all. Naruto would tell Bee that he's gonna go back to sleep after seeing that. Killer Bee would shake his head, pulling Naruto out of bed. Naruto would stand as he would look at himself, covered in dirt and filth. His clothes tattered, too. Naruto would look at Killer Bee, as he would ask Killer Bee if he could get a change of clothes. Killer Bee would be ecstatic, grabbing Naruto a quick pair of clothes. And with that, Naruto is now in cloud attire. Very similar to, actually, what Killer Bee was wearing when he fought Sasuke. With that being said, Naruto and Killer Bee, after Naruto took a shower, would actually train together and just spar. Later that day, Yugito would join them, as their bond would grow day by day. Eventually would come time for Naruto to fully master the Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki, as he would go to the Waterfall of Truth. In this place, he would fight his darkness. And instead of being some guy with red eyes, the Naruto that he saw was identical to him, except for one of his eyes being red and dark and black. But besides that, they were the same. They looked the same, dressed the same, and their voices even sounded very, very similar to one another. And thus Naruto would speak, looking at himself as he barely could, as at this point, Naruto's what we will classify as his evil self is beating the hell out of him. Naruto, now on the ground, would outstretch his hand towards Naruto. Well, the other Naruto, that is. As he would slap his hand away. With that, Naruto would tightly grab onto the other Naruto's hand, as Naruto would hug him. For the first time, this Naruto had felt love. It had felt like it actually mattered. And Naruto would watch as this version of himself shed a tear. It was then that Naruto himself would smile, as the Naruto in front of him would disappear, and he noticed a glowing orange chakra around himself. What the? Naruto would disappear and reappear. It had seemed like he was now in some sort of white space, similar to that which he met Hagoromo in, but it didn't give off the same vibes. It felt different in a way. In the corner of what appeared to be a blank room, he saw a red-haired Kunoichi. Naruto would walk over to her, as she would stand. Naruto, do you know who I am? Naruto felt so warm in this moment. Nothing had ever made him feel, I suppose, this good. With that being said, Naruto would look at the woman as he would smile and push his head. Basically, he would push his finger into his head, kind of like as if he couldn't think, if that makes any sense. It would be at this point that a sudden change would occur. Light would appear. A very, very bright light. The Sage of Six Paths now stood before Naruto in what can only be described as a different universe of sorts, or a different dimension, or a different escape, if that makes sense. The same place that Naruto met the Sage of Six Paths in the original timeline. With that being said, Naruto and the Sage of Six Paths would exchange formalities, names, that kind of thing. The Sage of Six Paths would even explain his backstory to young Naruto. As it would be here that he would tell Naruto that he has been cursed with the fate that no reincarnation of Asura has ever been given. A fate so horrible that it will take everything away from him. It would be there that Naruto would remember his first encounter with the Sage of Six Paths, where he was gifted the powers of the Uchiha. And it would be here that the Sage of Six Paths would revoke this. And with that, that he would bring about a great calamity, killing Naruto and every evil he fought, using up most of his spiritual energy. He would go back into hiding, you could say. Or rather, wherever he was before he contacted Naruto. With that, a great light engulfs the world, the whole ninja world. For 20 whole seconds, a blinding light at that. And once it was over, only good people remained in the world. Only good people with good intentions. So, with that being said, this is basically the end to the What If. It wasn't the end that I wanted to give it, but, and obviously this end was a little rushed. We were kind of in the middle of a fight. But this is the end that has been decided. I love you all. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as that would be greatly appreciated. And that being said, this has been What If Naruto was the cursed Uchiha.